Ron, and we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time, here to talk about everything in terms of the world of professional wrestling, all the action inside and outside of the ring, backstage curtain calls, rumors, and, drama. We also talk about superstar inactive statuses, also injury updates. We talk about contract negotiations, new signings. We also talk about extensions. We talk about wrestling promotions from WWE to AEW to the CMLL to Game Changing Wrestling to the National Wrestling Alliance. Basically, if it makes major news in the world of professional wrestling, we talk about it here on this show 1010%. So, just kind of reflect on what we talked about right quick. We talked about our AEW Dynamite review. Make sure you go ahead and check out that YouTube video on the GSMC Sports Podcasting Network, as well as the GSMC Podcasting Network to kind of catch up on the latest GSMC Wrestling Laureate content. And, just kind of, preview our next segment. We're going to talk about my Thursday Night Wrestling preview, step into the world of Ring of Honor and the ring of TNA Impact. So, yeah, let's go and dig on into it. But before we get into any of that, I want to remind you guys, if you have a burning question or a hot take in terms of professional wrestling, we at the GSMC Sports Network are absolutely all ears, 1010%. This show is all about keeping the conversation lively, making sure you guys feel like your voices are heard, your opinions, they matter. It's all about keeping the conversation lively, making sure your voice feels like you are part of the mix, so don't be shy. Drop absolutely anything inside that chat. Give me a shout out of what city you're listening from, maybe what country. Also, give me your hot takes in terms of, professional wrestling. And yeah, we can have fun with it. And if you really want to make sure your comment question gets noticed, why not use that super chat? It's that $ below that chat box. And absolutely everything you put inside that box is going to be featured and talked about on the show. If it's something really juicy, actually something we can debate about, maybe some, create kind of a segment to the point where, you are the host. This is our wrestling podcast. Obviously, I loved comparing this wrestling podcast to, I feel like if you walk into a bar and if you sit next to a wrestling fan, or being a wrestling fan nowadays, kind of appeal to like a niche audience where, not a lot of people kind of get the passion for professional wrestling. It's kind of like one. Honestly, this might be widely inaccurate numbers. I would say probably one out of every like 25 people actually are wrestling fans, maybe even higher than that. That's how crazy it is. That's how lost people are who have missed the opportunity of becoming, a part of this huge conglomeration that is professional wrestling. TNA, Ring of Honor, AEW, WWE. At the end of the day, we are wrestling heads. We are, wrestling dorks, if you want to call it that. But 1010%, it's definitely something to give a watch. We are absolutely, obviously, thank you in advance. We are super grateful for each and every one of you guys who joins us here daily on the GSMC Sports Network. Your support makes all the difference. So let's keep the conversation going. Let's keep this party going. Send in those super chats, those super stickers, because you guys are super awesome. And together we will make sure this podcast is bigger, better, and stronger than ever. Once again, if the super chat is not your thing, you can still find us on the GSMCpodcast.net. Hit up that link, tap that tips and donations button, and tell me how you feel. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. Just remember to Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show. Follow the show. Follow the network here at the GSMC Sports Network. We do love a lot of peace, love, and positivity, 1010%. But of course, in terms of sports, it's inevitable. There's going to be some criticisms. There's going to be some debates, and that's okay. Don't be shy. Absolutely, feedback is a gift. Definitely would love to hear you guys' hot takes in terms of professional wrestling. So don't be shy. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen, guys. All right, so without further ado, let's jump on into our second segment, my Thursday Night Wrestling preview. So let's go and talk about some Ring of Honor. Obviously, this is, Ring of Honor's returns to the latest installment of the weekly Honor Club series, on the digital streaming platforms. And we have a pretty awesome show for you today lined up. We have the celebration of the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion, Athena. Obviously, she has become one of the longest reigning, champions, not in just the women's division in all of, professional wrestling, hitting the independent circuit, like Ring of Honor, like the CMLL, like New Japan Professional Wrestling, like Stardom, obviously in terms of AEW as well. So, obviously I love Athena. I think she's an asset to basically any wrestling promotion that she stepped foot in. Obviously, WWE didn't really do her, that well ever since she became WWE Women's NXT Champion. And then as soon as she debuted on the main roster, WWE bookings, WWE creative team, personnel didn't really know how to handle this superstar that is. Well, back in the day, her name was Ember Moon. Her in-ring name was Ember Moon. But now it's Athena. Now she's kicking ass somewhere else. Obviously, WWE dropping the ball in terms of that. But now she's on Ring of Honor. She gets more television time, definitely more merchandise sales as well as advertisement, sponsorship. For her to be more marketable. So I definitely think that's better for her. Ring of Honor television title match. We have Brian Cage taking on Komander. Komander, recently suffered a loss to Hologram. It's kind of crazy. Hologram recently suffered, an injury as well. But Komander, he's been one of the most famous luchadors in Ring of Honor, and I feel like he could definitely give Brian Cage a run for his money. Obviously, the leader of Cage of Agony, Brian Cage, recently being basically being drafted to the Don Callis family, and which has become, you have Lance Archer, you have Kyle Fletcher, they're the real deal here, so definitely expect Brian Cage to definitely get some help if he falls into trouble here. Next we have Reina Isas go ahead and take it on Viva Van. Viva Van is kind of on the build up for her to basically be the new up and coming rising star. She has basically all the talent in the world to become a successful professional wrestler. It just really has to transcribe into her accomplishments, and yeah, that's not easy. Um, professional wrestling, yes, it could be choreographed, and at the same time, it's booked. It's booked. Definitely going to break the fourth wall here, and I feel like it's important for Ring of Honor to start, promoting Viva Van in more of a heavyweight, and at this point it is hard. And what I talked about early in this segment, Athena is absolutely untouchable, one of the longest reigning champions. She's definitely, she's the cream of the crop, and much like they're doing with TNA, like the Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace, they're not really going to force anything if it's not going to make sense. If it's not going to make sense. And that's something that wrestling promotions have to do, is have storylines. A lot of wrestling promotions do love that shocking factor, that unpredictability, that something happens and they're like, and all the fans are like, yeah, that's so cool. It's so edgy. It's something new. At first, yeah, it works, but down the line, creating storylines, especially, for the promotion itself, a couple months down the line, it just, sometimes they get booked into matches and it just doesn't seem like it works. It doesn't seem like it works. And they're like, you know what? They should have kept the championship on Athena, or they should have kept the championship on somebody else, because after a month of this, like, it doesn't really seem like this person is really going anywhere. It's super detrimental to the promotion, but ultimately it's detrimental to the superstar being promoted during the booking. So, definitely got to, approach the situation with much caution. Obviously, with a lot of courteous as well. Taking into consideration of some of the possibilities that can happen, if you just want to go off key and be like, you know what, let's just have the unpredictable factor. You've seen it in WWE a bunch of times. You've seen it in, especially, WCW. That's the reason why they faltered. That's the reason why they sold to Vince McMahon in the early 2001s. So, sometimes, it could be great, but most of the time, you kind of have to play it soft there. You're going to have to play it by key, day by day. All right, next we have Rocky Romero. Rocky Romero recently joining the conglomeration, taking on Brandon Cutler, excuse me. Rocky Romero, I love that he still kind of has this, isolationist point of view. How ultimately he did become a part of the conglomeration, but at the end of the day, he's like, you know what? At the end of the day, no one's gonna watch my back. No one's gonna step into that wrestling ring and wrestle for me to try to, to gain accomplishments, to try to gain, name, image, likeness in terms of the fans, and also like merchandise sales, marketing and stuff like that. Because if you're not selling the seats inside that stands, guess what? Your creative control is lost. It's botched, and basically you become like a forethought. And they're like, you know what? You've basically became you were a mid-carder who could possibly challenge for the Ring of Honor World Television Championship, maybe even the AEW International Championship or the TNT Championship. And now you go down to basically you're wrestling for, you're wrestling in front of like 1,200 people again, at a municipal arena in like, Riverside, California. Obviously, that's where I'm from, Southern California. That's where they would wind up. Not that I'm saying that that's bad. Ultimately feel like wrestlers that ultimately, they do go back down, literally have to kind of find yourself, recreate your character, most importantly, build your self confidence up, and eventually you make it up to the top again. So maybe sometimes things do happen for a reason, and especially in terms of professional wrestling, that notion has definitely become concrete. Next, we have Lee Johnson and Ed Undoka taking on a surprise team tonight on Ring of Honor. We have the Gates of Agony taking on the Infantry. The Infantry, basically looking for a way to get into the storylines in terms of professional wrestling. In terms of Ring of Honor, I've been great about these young guys. I know they have a lot of talent, and taking on the Gates of Agony tonight. Obviously, it's not the easiest. It's not the easiest task, but if they want to see their tag team moving forward, if they want a shot at Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs for that Ring of Honor's maybe 6-man, maybe for that Ring of Honor, TV championship, you're gonna have to do something. You're gonna have to do something, kind of like you basically have to get your crap together, man. You got to become, the tag team champions to ensure that you're gonna get bookings. Other than that, guess what? At the end of the day, you're gonna be let go. So, Ring of Honor, definitely a much watch tonight on Honor Club streaming services. Make sure you check that out. All right, now moving on to TNA. TNA, it's the last stop before Bound of Glory this Saturday, October 26th. Go ahead and find out at the latest moment, maybe some matches that are going to be added to the match card. Tonight we have contract signings with Joe Hendry, with Nick Nemeth, and of course we have Jordynne Grace defending her TNA Knockouts Championship against Masha Slamovich, which is it's gonna be a great episode. It's gonna be a great episode. I definitely feel like sparks are going to fly while these superstars are going to be signing this contract. Definitely, it's like an unwritten rule inside of professional wrestling. Every single time you get inside the ring with your fancy clothes and getting ready to put pen to paper, something always happens. Usually someone always winds up through the table. So it should be pretty interesting to find out what's going on. Jonathan Gresham secured a win over John Skyler on Explosion, with Josh Alexander watching closely from commentary. Now Gresham and Alexander face off tonight, and I love Jonathan Gresham. I definitely think he's going to be a future star. But Josh Alexander, he needs a little bit more momentum heading toward his match with Frankie Kazarian. So I definitely think that's going to be, that's going to be a dub for Josh Alexander. In a high stakes scramble match, we're going to see Frankie Kazarian, AJ Francis with Casey Navarro, Sammy Callahan, the Laredo Kid, Jake Something, and Jason Hooch with John Skyler. The winner earns the coveted number 20 spot in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet Bound for Glory match, while the loser is forced to enter at number 1. So obviously a lot of obligation, a lot of stipulations. Basically, you can ensure yourself a title shot with a W, and if you lose, you're forced to go number 1, which is not good for your chances of becoming a champion. So, obviously, a lot of things happening on TNA tonight. Just grooming more toward the buildup of TNA's biggest event of the year, Bound for Glory. So, make sure you watch it. It's a must watch. Heather Reckless has caught the attention of the personal concierge and Ash by Elegant. She's accepted the offer for a makeover, which will be revealed obviously in the launch party from Elegance tonight. And also we have a TNA World Tag Team title scene. After defeating ABC, the system has run roughshod over the Impact Zone, but with the Hardys back and looking for the gold. ABC is eager to reclaim their lost titles. Tensions are absolutely boiling over. ABC and the Hardys are forced to join forces to kind of take down the system in this blockbuster tag team showdown. And of course, lastly, we have Wendy Chu from NXT. Obviously, last time you saw her on Tuesday, taking Tatum Paxley in a crate, just, kind of kidnapping her. It's kind of crazy. Obviously, she's going to be accompanied by Rosemary, taking on Danny Luna, one half of Jody Threat with Danny Luna by her side, one half of the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champions Spitfire. So tonight, like obviously hit up the TNA Impact Zone, watch TNA Impact. It's going to be amazing, and don't miss a second of this total nonstop action. All right, guys, so we got done with our second segment. Now it's time to move on to the third. We're going to talk about TNA. We're going to talk about TNA Bound for Glory predictions. They have a pay-per-view coming up on Saturday, their biggest pay-per-view of the year. So we're going to talk about that, maybe dive into some predictions, some analysis, maybe some future storylines. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice-cold beverage, and join me here in about 25 seconds.